The night my family laughed about my failed hotel career, I was already the one who owned the building. I'm Claire Whitmore, 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, Christmas with my family was never about love. It was about appearances, the kind that end up in glossy magazines, in my sister Mayline's perfectly staged Instagram posts with captions like family goals. Behind every one of those photos was a knife, usually pointed at me. My father built a real estate empire through grit and inherited arrogance. He measured human worth in square footage. My mother learned to echo his opinions like a well-trained instrument, and Mayline, my older sister, wore their approval like a crown, floating through every holiday in designer gowns while the room bent toward her light. I was the afterthought, the one who didn't follow the plan. When I left to study hospitality instead of business development, my father looked at me the way he looked at bellhops who opened his car door too slowly. Hotels are service, Claire. Service is beneath us. That was the last serious conversation we had about my future. My mother agreed. Mayline made sure to remind me of my failure at every possible opportunity, so I stopped explaining myself. I went quiet. I worked. For 5 years, I let them believe I was managing budget hotels, piecing together a modest, embarrassing little career while the real Whitmores built legacies in real estate. What they didn't know, what I made sure they couldn't know, was that those so-called budget hotels were the foundation of something else entirely. Shell companies hid my name. Airport lounges became my boardrooms. Christmas Eves became contract nights. While they clinked champagne and sang carols, I was drawing up acquisition plans. Here's the thing about being underestimated: it hurts, yes, but it also gives you perfect cover. The Aspen Lodge glittered that night like a snow globe come to life. Golden lights looped across vaulted beams. A choir sang near the fireplace. My family moved through the grand lobby as if they owned the place, which of course, they believed they did. My mother waved off staff without a thank you. Mayline floated in wearing a champagne-colored gown, whispering to cousins about how stressful it was to coordinate an event of this magnitude. Nobody noticed me standing in the shadows near the entrance. I heard Aunt Sarah ask casually if anyone had heard from Claire. My mother's reply carried clean across the marble floor. Oh, she won't be joining us. Every hotel is fully booked. Honestly, she should have reserved a room months ago. Laughter. A toast raised in mock sympathy. Mayline leaned toward the cousins, lowering her voice just enough to still be heard. Still chasing her little hotel project. Imagine spending Christmas in some roadside motel. I stood there with my phone heavy in my palm, feeling an old wound reopen. My father's voice from years past echoed through me. Real estate builds legacies. Hotels serve coffee. And there he was across the room, swirling scotch in crystal, glancing toward where Aunt Sarah still stood. At least Claire is employed, he muttered, as if that were some generous concession. Something snapped inside me then. Not rage, something quieter and more final. A decision. I had spent 5 years building in silence, letting their contempt be my armor. But standing there in pine-scented air, watching them raise glasses over my absence, I realized I didn't want armor anymore. I wanted the truth laid bare. And I had chosen the perfect stage for it. My phone buzzed once. A confirmation from my legal team. The acquisition would finalize at midnight. Every five-star property in Aspen, including the Aspen Lodge, their crown jewel, their annual Christmas stage, would transfer to elite hotels. My company, my name on the deed. I waited. When midnight came, I stepped forward. My heels struck the marble floor sharp enough to turn heads. Conversations faltered mid-sentence. My mother's face went pale as if she'd seen something she couldn't categorize. Claire, how did you get in here? I didn't answer her question. I lifted my phone and spoke calmly into it. Margaret, cancel the Whitmore family's presidential suite, effective immediately. The silence that followed was total. My father lowered his glass. What is this nonsense? Mayline's laugh came out wrong, thin, shaky. She's joking, she told the cousins, but her knuckles had gone white against her flute. Then the lobby screens flickered. Breaking news banners rolled across every display in the room. Elite Hotels acquires Aspen Lodge and 20 luxury properties worldwide. And beneath a photograph of me standing before my flagship hotel, in bold print, Claire Whitmore, CEO and founder, Elite Hotels. My father's scotch slipped from his hand and shattered against the floor. My mother's smile collapsed. Mayline fumbled with her phone, scrolling through headline after headline, her lips moving as she read. She whispered the words my mother had said earlier: all luxury hotels are fully booked, as if she could rewrite reality by repeating it. Not anymore, I said. I own them. The room erupted in murmurs. A senator leaned toward his wife. Reporters raised phones. The local mayor stood at the edge of the ballroom with the expression of a man watching history reroute itself in real time. Business partners who had dined with my father for decades began quietly recalculating where their loyalty should land. My father stepped toward me, pointing, that old authority in his voice. "You ungrateful, I raised my phone again. Security, please escort the Whitmore family from the presidential suite." Two elite staff members in immaculate uniforms stepped through the crowd. They had been briefed. They didn't hesitate. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone in that room. The daughter who had been excluded from her own family's Christmas now had the power to exclude them. The people her father had dismissed as servants were the ones removing him from the building. My mother sputtered. "You can't possibly mean I do," I said. "Elite Hotels has a strict policy. Guests who disrespect hospitality staff are permanently blacklisted. Every one of you qualifies." Mayline lunged toward me, her composure gone entirely. "Claire, please, we didn't know. If we had known, we would have." I held her gaze, remembered every smirk, every Christmas spent alone, every introduction at family events where she found a way to make my career sound like a punchline. "That's exactly the point," I said. "You didn't know because you never cared to look past your own reflection." My father tried one final time. He dropped his voice, used the nickname he hadn't called me in years. "Princess, we didn't know." I looked at him for a long moment. The man who taught me that worth was measured in property deeds and bottom lines. "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You never wanted to know." I turned to security and nodded. "Show them to the Mountain View Motel. It's the only accommodation left in Aspen during peak season." As they were led toward the exit, I called after my sister one last time. "Mayline, next time you laugh at someone in hospitality, remember this moment. They might just own the building." The crowd erupted, not in laughter, in applause. The morning after, snow lay silent across the mountains, while my new office on the top floor of Aspen Lodge filled with calls from investors, messages from heads of state, offers I'd never imagined receiving. Overnight, Claire Whitmore had stopped being the family disappointment and become the face of a hospitality empire valued at $8 billion. My family had spent Christmas Eve in the Mountain View Motel, stripped of the suite they'd flaunted for years, finally standing on the other side of the disdain they had handed to others for so long. But I want to be honest about what I felt that morning, looking out over those mountains. It wasn't triumph, exactly. It was something cleaner than that. Justice, maybe, or just finally being seen. I thought about the housekeepers and bellhops and front desk clerks who had built elite hotels alongside me, people my father would have dismissed without a second glance. They were never invisible. Neither was I had just been waiting for the moment to prove it. Here's what I learned from all of it. Your family can betray you, dismiss you, erase you from their table entirely. But their rejection does not define your worth. Respect, dignity, and the quiet persistence to keep building anyway, those things do. They lost their Christmas throne because they never saw the people who made it possible. I built my empire on those exact people, and it was everything.